Hello, welcome to Unlocking Buddhism. Have you ever felt that something about the world doesn't quite fit? As the moon pulls the tides, so too do unseen forces tug at the human mind. In the heart of this tension, the Buddha offered a gentle path, neither demanding adherence nor forcing belief, but quietly present like a lamp at the crossroads. In today's world, we seek mental health, stability, perhaps even a sense of spiritual clarity. But Buddhism offers more than techniques for well-being. It offers a doorway out of the endless cycle of becoming and fading, joy and loss, birth and death. This cycle, called samsara, is not broken by comfort or optimism, but by insight and release. This video is not a call to convert. Rather, it's a quiet invitation to look closer at the nature of your mind, to consider whether peace lies in more doing or in more seeing. Today we will walk together through reflections on the Dhamma, the world around us, and the world within. Before we continue, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What brought you to this video? Was it curiosity, a sense of searching, or simply coincidence? Feel free to share a word below. When I was young, a village elder once showed me a piece of glowing iron. He had taken it straight from the fire, using long wooden tongs, and placed it carefully on an anvil. "Watch," he said. The iron was red hot, pulsing with heat, almost alive. Then he struck it with a hammer. Sparks flew into the air, and the iron sang a sharp, bright song. Again he struck, and slowly the shapeless lump began to bend, stretch, and take form. "It must burn," he said quietly, "before it can become useful." That moment stayed with me. For years, I didn't understand its full meaning. But as I encountered the teachings of the Buddha, it returned to me again and again. Like the iron, our minds are heated by desire, ignorance, and aversion. These are the fires of tanha, craving. And the hammer, life itself, strikes us with suffering, loss, uncertainty. Without awareness, we simply get bruised. But with attention, with discipline, each blow becomes a chance to reshape the heart. The Buddha did not promise safety from the blows of life. He never said we could avoid the fire. What he taught was something more profound: how to transform the heat into clarity and the strikes into awakening. The world around us, this busy, unpredictable world, is not the enemy. It is the furnace. And each moment of discomfort, of confusion, is a tap of the hammer. Yet how many of us try to escape the fire too soon? How many of us, uncomfortable with uncertainty, rush to cool our minds in distractions, in pleasure, in explanations that feel good but run shallow? Like iron removed too early from the forge, we become stiff, resistant, unable to bend toward truth. In monasteries across Asia, old monks teach the young ones to sit still, not to react, even as the legs ache and the mind protests. This, they say, is the hammer. I met a man once, in a small retreat center, who had lost everything: his career, his marriage, even his sense of identity. He had once been a successful architect, admired and envied. But when the economy crashed, so did his world. He ended up in the countryside, alone, with nothing but questions. He spoke little. He listened a lot. He sat through the pain in meditation, sometimes shaking, sometimes weeping silently. One afternoon, as we walked by the river, he said, "I thought I came here to fix my mind." He stayed for months. He read the suttas slowly, ate simply, and cleaned the meditation hall every day without being asked. One evening, after months of silence, he smiled and said, "I no longer miss my old life. We are not our roles. We are not our thoughts. We are not even our fears. But to realize that, we must endure the slow burn of truth." In Buddhist imagery, the lotus grows in muddy waters. It cannot bloom in clean, clear lakes. Why? Because it is in the mud, in the darkness, in the rot, in the unresolved, that life gathers the strength to unfold beauty. This is not an accident. This is the path. Our cravings tell us to reach for comfort. Our culture teaches us to always feel better, to fix discomfort quickly, to buy or believe something that promises ease. But the Buddha pointed to a different way. Not escape, but presence. Not resistance, but clarity. The hot iron does not choose the fire, but it can be shaped within it. So can we. The Buddha did not ask us to believe. He invited us to look, quietly, honestly, and directly, into the nature of our own experience. He spoke not from speculation, but from insight, and offered his teachings not as commandments, but as tools for liberation. He began with a truth as old as breath itself: dukkha, suffering. Not in the dramatic sense of pain alone, but in the subtle ways we feel incomplete, restless, dissatisfied. Even in pleasure we find unease because it fades. Even in success we sense the shadow of loss. This is not a flaw in life. It is a signpost. It points us toward a deeper question: why do we suffer? The Buddha answered, we suffer because we cling. We cling to permanence in a world where nothing stays the same. And we do this not because we are bad, but because we are unaware. We move through life asleep, reacting instead of responding, chasing comfort and fearing loss. This is where the Dhamma begins, not in temples or rituals, but in the raw honesty of seeing things as they are. The Four Noble Truths are not distant doctrines. They are maps of our inner world. First, the recognition of suffering. Then, the insight into its cause, craving. Third, the possibility of its end, nirodha, the cessation of suffering. And finally, the path that leads there, the Noble Eightfold Path. This path is not a ladder to climb, but a circle to live within. Right view helps us see clearly, free from illusion. Right intention points us toward renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. Right speech, action, and livelihood align our lives with ethical awareness. Right effort trains the energy of the mind. Right mindfulness brings awareness to each moment. Right concentration deepens our stability and presence. These are not religious duties. They are medicines for the mind. When practiced sincerely, they slowly untangle the knots of confusion. They don't erase pain, but they reveal its nature. They don't make us passive, but they make us wise. A wise person does not avoid life. They move through it with clarity, compassion, and freedom. But the path is not without challenge. Our modern world moves fast. It values noise, novelty, and control. The Dhamma asks us to slow down, to listen, to surrender our addiction to certainty. This can feel like loss, but it is actually the beginning of true seeing. Just as a muddy river clears when it is undisturbed, our mind begins to reveal its natural peace when we stop stirring it with fear and desire. This is the silence the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree, the silence of a mind no longer entangled in becoming. When we sit in meditation, we do not escape the world. We learn to meet it with open eyes. When we speak with kindness instead of anger, when we let go of what no longer serves, when we pause before reacting, we are walking the path. Slowly, step by step, we return to what we've always been: aware, spacious, and free. The Dhamma is not far away. It is not hidden in some sacred text or distant mountain. It is here, now, waiting to be seen, in the rise and fall of the breath, in the smile of compassion, in the stillness beneath all things. This is the promise of the Buddha's teaching. Not that life will become perfect, but that our hearts can become free. You don't need a monastery to practice the Dhamma. You don't need robes or rituals. You need only this: awareness in the midst of life. The Buddha taught in forests and villages, among kings and beggars. His teachings were not meant to pull us out of the world, but to awaken us within it. Because it is here, in the kitchen, in traffic, at work, in conversation, where the path is walked, step by mindful step. Take, for instance, an ordinary morning. You wake up to a flood of thoughts, a meeting to prepare for, a bill unpaid, a message unanswered. The mind begins to race. In that moment, the Dhamma is already present. Can you pause before reaching for your phone? Can you notice the breath, feel the body, recognize the impermanence of each thought? That pause is the seed of liberation. When you speak to someone, your partner, a colleague, a stranger? Can you bring sati, mindfulness, to your words? Can you listen without formulating your response? Can you speak with care rather than haste, with intention rather than impulse? Right speech isn't about being polite. It's about being awake to the power of words to harm or heal. You are standing in line and someone cuts in front of you. The reflex is anger, judgment. But here again is the Dhamma. What does anger feel like? What story is your mind telling? Is it true? Is it useful? You may still act, but with clarity, not reactivity. This is not suppression. This is liberation through understanding. You sit down for a meal. Are you eating to nourish or to escape? Are you tasting the food or scrolling your phone? One simple act, eating, becomes a mirror. And if we look into it with honesty, we begin to see how much of our life passes in unawareness. In relationships, the Dhamma asks us not to possess, but to understand. To love not for what the other gives us, but for who they truly are. Clinging creates suffering. Presence creates connection. This shift, subtle but radical, changes the entire landscape of our emotional life. Even our work can be a field of practice. Whether you are caring for children, writing code, serving food, or sweeping a floor, each act can be done with attention, with ethical intention, with a heart that remembers. This, too, is the path. Her life became her monastery. Her family became her practice. She cooked with awareness. She spoke with patience. She treated each guest as a teacher. In doing so, she walked the path. This is the invitation of Buddhism, not to escape the world, but to see it with clear eyes. To see our habits, our assumptions, our moments of clinging, and in seeing, to soften. Every frustration is a gate. Every routine is a ritual. Every challenge is a mirror. Even the painful moments, loss, conflict, disappointment, can be teachers. When a friend betrays you, you can observe the sting, feel the contraction of the heart, and breathe with it. Not to suppress it, but to understand. This too is impermanent. The Dhamma doesn't require perfection, it only asks presence. Over time, these small moments of awareness build a new rhythm, a gentler, wiser way of being. The world remains the same, but we are no longer caught in its currents. We begin to float. And perhaps that is the quiet miracle of the Buddha's path. It meets us exactly where we are and shows us that every breath, every step, every moment is the perfect place to begin. There is a moment in practice when words begin to fall away. The teachings have been heard, the path has been walked step by step, and what remains is not a concept, but a quiet shift in the heart. It is not dramatic, but unmistakable. This is the silence the Buddha pointed to, not the absence of sound, but the absence of struggle. Not the world being quiet, but the mind no longer arguing with the world. In this stillness, the practitioner discovers something unexpected. The world hasn't changed, but their relationship with it has. The same responsibilities, the same body, the same mind, but no longer entangled. A woman wakes up before dawn. Her life is full, children, work, deadlines, but she sits for 10 minutes before the day begins, not to escape, but to meet herself. Breathing in, she feels the body. Breathing out, she releases the tension she hadn't noticed. The thoughts come, but they do not carry her. She is here. This is practice. A man finishes a long shift. He is exhausted. Normally he would turn on the television and try to forget, but tonight, he just sits. He lets the fatigue be present. He feels the weight in his legs, the pulse in his hands. He doesn't judge it. He doesn't chase it away. He rests inside it. This is practice. A teenager walks home after a hard day. Harsh words were spoken. Shame lingers. But instead of turning inward with blame, they pause under a tree. They place a hand on their chest. This hurts. They whisper. This, too, is practice. These are not dramatic events, but they are deeply human and deeply transformative. What the Buddha offered was not a fixed identity or a spiritual performance. He offered a way to be free in the middle of our real, ordinary lives, not by becoming something different, but by removing what obscures our natural clarity. The mind, when not clouded by craving or aversion, knows how to respond. It knows how to rest. It knows how to see. This is why meditation matters, not as escape, but as intimacy. It is how we learn to meet our fear without flinching, our joy without clinging, our sadness without resistance. The more we practice, the more we trust that this path is not about fixing ourselves. It is about realizing that underneath the confusion, the exhaustion, and the fear, there is already a steady presence. A mind that can observe without being overwhelmed. A heart that can care without needing control. The world will remain unpredictable. People will still disappoint us. Our bodies will still age. But the mind that sees clearly is not shaken by this. It does not cling to what changes, and so it suffers less. This is not a distant goal. It is a capacity already within us, waiting to be uncovered. The breath becomes our anchor. The silence becomes our teacher. The body becomes our home again. And gradually, with each step, each breath, each act of letting go, we begin to live from a place that is steady, quiet, and free. Not because we've escaped the world, but because we've learned to stop resisting it. The path of the Buddha does not end with a teaching. It begins with a question. How do we choose to live? In a world that moves quickly, in a life filled with noise and demands, we are invited not to escape, but to return. To return to the body, to the breath, to this moment, again and again. Buddhism is not a system of beliefs to be accepted. It is a way of seeing, an invitation to investigate, to feel, to unearth what is real beneath what is familiar. The truth of suffering, the possibility of freedom, the simple joy of awareness. These are not distant ideals. They are within reach, as close as the breath. Perhaps you came to this video with curiosity, perhaps with pain, perhaps with something you could not name. Whatever brought you here, know this. There is nothing wrong with you. The desire to live with clarity is not a weakness. It is a form of wisdom already waking in your heart. This path does not require perfection. You do not need to sit perfectly still. You do not need to renounce everything. You need only the courage to pause, to observe, to soften. One breath at a time, one moment of honesty, one act of kindness toward yourself, toward the world. And if this message touched something within you, however small, I invite you to honor that. Take a moment now to reflect. What stayed with you? What did you feel in the quiet between the words? Share just one word in the comments. A word that describes what you're carrying now. It could be stillness, truth, lightness, uncertainty, hope. Let that word be your offering. Let it be your way of saying, I am here. I am listening. I am walking the path. No one can walk it for you, but you are not alone. This perhaps is the heart of it all. A path open to all. A truth simple and profound. A breath, and the choice to begin.